is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So I'm going to talk about something that's kind of sensitive, and it's about how you're supposed to behave when you go to another country. So I just entitled the video, Learn How to Behave Before Migrating to Another Country. It's going to make it a lot easier for you if you learn how to behave. Now, when I say that Black Americans are taught manners, I'm talking about the standard that you should treat people like you want to be treated. That is called the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It seems like a simple thing, but it still works. Now, there are people that come onto my channel from time to time complaining about how Black Americans treat them, and very often these are immigrants. At first, Black people were complaining about African immigrants. And then they narrowed it down to one group, and that was Nigerians. It seems like Nigerians have a problem everywhere they go. Now, clearly, it's not all Nigerians. Nigerians, I'm sure, are some of the nicest people in the world. But there are Kenyan immigrants here, there are Ghanaian immigrants here, there are Ethiopian immigrants here, and I'm talking about in fairly large numbers. They are here from Ethiopia. They've been coming here all the time. And you rarely hear anything about Ethiopians. Even Somalis. Somalis have their own culture and their own way of doing things. But I lived among Somalis in Atlanta, and they were in the school that I taught. There was a group of Somali young men working in a restaurant that my husband and I used to go to every Sunday. They were so polite and so professional and just very helpful, even though they were out of their culture, out of their element, but they adapted to the culture that they were in. That's very, very respectful. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't some outliers. There are outliers in every group. But for the most part, you don't hear about these other African groups. It's always something to do with Nigerians, and it's always something arrogant, and it's something that ticks Black Americans off in particular. But not just Black Americans. They have problems in South Africa. They have problems in India. They have problems in China. So what that suggests, that they are doing something in these countries that are setting off people's anger. And so it can't be that everybody has got to adjust to them. And I know, again, I'm sure there are very nice ones, but there doesn't seem to be a culture of respect among Nigerians. And it's just going to make it more difficult as time goes on and countries crack down more and more on illegal immigration, and as the rules of immigration change, because they will change over time. And we get another president in office who decides they're going to start deporting people from this country and not letting people come from certain countries, then your country might end up being at the top of the list because people are complaining about you. And again, it's not just in the United States. It's in other countries too. Now, somebody will probably come on here saying, oh, she made a whole video about Nigerians. Yes, I did. Because number one, Black Americans are complaining about Nigerians. And number two, Nigerians are complaining about how Black Americans are treating them. So it needs to be addressed. And I just want to point out, as a matter of fact, that Black Americans are at home and they're not required to adapt to your culture or your ways of doing things in the way that when Black Americans go to your country, you're not required to adapt or modify the way you do things to suit them. Now, for people who might think that I'm just picking and creating chaos or divisiveness which is not my goal, I want to show you something.
So please, we are making this video for the Nigerian government to please, if truly they have the interest of Nigerians at heart, they will come to the head out, they will reach out to the Indian government for proper, at least, negotiation in order for these little children to go. While there are some other children over here who, some of them, they've lost their parents, some of them, their parents are in jail, and they need to go back home to reunite with their extended family, but they are all being denied here. So please, we are begging the federal government of Nigeria to at least do something about it. And I want to plead with all Nigerians to at least spread this video, share it all over every platform. Share this video over every platform so that it can reach out to the appropriate authority in order for them to do the necessary things.
I believe this was in 2023 when the Indians were deporting busloads of Nigerians out of their country. Now, this is what it looked like trying to get them out of there. Now that's how it was trying to get them out of India. They had them on a bus taking them to the airport, and they were jumping out of the bus window, illegally staying in somebody else's country, breaking the law, for the second time. So this is what I'm talking about, not having any respect for other people's laws or culture and just taking the law into their own hands. This is how they behave. And the reality is, if there are any jobs in India, the Indian people need those jobs. India and Nigeria switch places from year to year, being the poorest countries in the world, according to the World Health Organization. And that's not all. Listen to this lady.
Sanbonani, hello. So I just wanted to add my 2 cents about the whole Miss South Africa conversation that's happening right now. And from what I've been reading and watching and everything that's been happening around this whole conversation, I just feel like it's important to highlight a few things. One, we must not be silenced into believing that if you raise issues that are making us unhappy or uncomfortable in South Africa, it's because we self-hate or because we hate Africa or whatever the case might be. Because all throughout Africa, there are many different countries in Africa. But I don't remember even one of them being made to believe that they have to accept every single thing from every single person who's not even South African in order for them to feel like they are black enough or African enough. You know, other countries can enforce their laws and make sure people abide by them, even chasing out people who are not in their countries legally or walking around and being asked to produce your IDs. For those who've traveled, you'll know that in other African countries, you don't just walk around in jail just by you being black and being African and you think you have free will to do as you please. It doesn't work like that in a lot of African countries. But our country, unfortunately, has opened us up to a lot of vulnerability because we are made to believe that anything that we say that is for the country and that is how we as citizens are concerned about our own country, it's because we're xenophobic or we're Afrophobic or it's because we love white people. So this is the new thing now, that if you raise any issues because you're scared of white people. And my question is, the same people that are saying we're scared of white people, blah, blah, are the same people flocking to European countries. So you're saying we must chase Europeans out of South Africa so they can go back to Europe, as some of you always say. And then you're the same people that will go to European countries because now you've made a mess of every single African country and we're supposed to be okay with that. How does that work? It's really confusing for me. And then also some people will say it's because we've been colonized to believe blah, 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 blah. Listen, there are countries like like China and Japan and India, all are in the same continent, that's Asia. But you don't see Indians flocking in millions to go live in China, or millions to live in North Korea, or in millions to live in Japan, and expect the Japanese or the Chinese or the Indians to accept them by virtue of them being from the same continent. Why is South Africa given that burden? So you're saying to me that Asians hate being Asian because they don't want to allow other Asians to just walk into their countries freely. What is so special about the notion of being black and being allowed to go anywhere you want in Africa, where other countries are not doing that, and they are not self-hating? They are not people who don't love themselves or love white people more. Like, Asians couldn't be bothered by white people, but apparently we're bothered by white people when we try and implement rule and law in our own country. Guys, South Africa has gone through a lot. We don't have a problem with other countries. We embrace them. We even dress like Nigerians. We dress like Swati people. We dress like anything. We don't have a problem with anyone. All we ask is for people to be in South Africa legally, and when they're here legally, to behave themselves, to respect the country, to respect its people, to respect the law. That's all that we ask for. Why are we being made to feel bad about it? So are we just supposed to allow people to just walk in and out the country and do as they please? It's not fair. It's really not fair. We've seen crime, we see trafficking, we see abuse of this country and its economy and its state, and the only thing that we're being told is because we don't want to be African enough. No, African unity, if it's a big deal, if it's so important, all the people that want this African unity so badly, why do you need to have the African unity in South Africa? Can you go and have the African unity in any other African country? We don't mind. We don't see South Africans flocking in millions in other people's countries because we're seeking for African unity, you know. And even if South Africans do go to other countries for work or for whatever purpose, it's because they get there, they behave themselves, and they treat the people of that country with respect. They treat the law of that country with respect. We don't go around being entitled to other things. So why must South Africans be subject to this? Why must South Africans be told, you can't do anything about it, we're going to come to your country? I hope our government does something about this, because the problem started because of our government and the people who work in these departments that allow people to come into the country anyhow. It's time to be patriotic about South Africa.
So you see, South Africa is having some of the same problems that we're having. They want to come into your country, be disrespectful to you, and if you say anything, you're jealous or you love the white man or this, that, or something else. But it still goes back to the fact that if you're so smart and you're so great, be smart and great in your own country. And if another country is so gracious as to let you come to their country, then you need to learn to have some manners before you leave home, because charity begins at home. Okay, y'all, thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video, and have a good evening.